Welcome back to another exciting episode. So today we are going to discuss about what is chemical bonding and what are the types of chemical bonds and what is ionic bond mainly. We will discuss about the ionic bond. So first of all, see what is the chemical bonding. The formation of a chemical bond between the two or more atoms, molecules or ions to give rise to a chemical compound is called as the chemical bonding. Chemical bonding is basically the formation of a bond between two chemical compounds when they react together and they form a combination of them to give a new product. This is known as the chemical bonding. The bond that is formed, the relation or the connection that is formed during the chemical bonding is known as the chemical bond. The force which holds the atoms or ions together within the molecule is known as chemical bond, and the whole process is known as chemical bonding, and it took place between the two chemical compounds. So what are the types of chemical compounds? Up to 6 types of the chemical bonds, which named as ionic bond, covalent bond, hydrogen bond, metallic bond and coordinate covalent bond. So in this video we will discuss only about the ionic bond. What is ionic bond? The electrostatic force of attraction which holds the two oppositely charged ions together is called as the ionic bond. So ionic bond is basically formed between the two elements when they form a compound. So a type of force which is known as the electrostatic force. Electrostatic force is basically the force that we observed between the electrons of an atom. So when the electrons are interacting with each other and they attract each other to form a bond, and both of these elements have opposite charges, so charge attraction that result in the formation of a new compound is known as the ionic bond. So this is the definition of ionic bond. Now we will see how the ionic bond is basically formed. So the formation of ionic bonds involves a very simple procedure. An ionic bond is formed after two or more atoms lose or gain electrons into form an ion. So basically what happens in the ionic bond, one atom loses its electron to another atom completely. There is no sharing of electron. One atom number A, is completely lost or lose its electron with its own will to another electron, so that it fulfill its octane and that it fulfills its shell, because we know that every atom tries to be stable and they are unstable when they have electrons in their valence shell that does not complete their octet shell. So in order to be stable they just try to lose their electron or gain whatever suits them. Ionic bonds occur between metals losing electrons and between the non-metals gaining electron. As I have said already, that one atom loses its electron to become stable and the other atom just gain an electron to be stable. So in this way one atom loses and the other atom receives an electron and they both in their own states become stable. Ions with the positive charges will attract one another creating an ionic bond. So this is how ionic bond formed. Now with the help of dramatic explanation I will be able to explain in a very better way. Here is an atom that is known as sodium, which is represented by Na. Along with that we have another atom that is Cl. Now a reaction took place between them. So what exactly happened in case of sodium? You can easily see the first shell has 2 electrons. This is a stable shell. Then the next shell has 8 electrons. This is also a stable shell, but the last electron only has a 1 electron. So in order to be stable, sodium need to get rid of that electron that makes it unstable. There are two conditions. Either sodium gains someone else's electron and becomes stable, or it will lose its unnecessary or a single electron from its valence shell to become stable. And in parallel you can see that chlorine has in first shell 2 electrons, then it has 8 electrons in the second shell, and then in a last shell the chlorine has 7 electrons. It means chlorines only need 1 electron to become stable. 2, 2, 4, 6 and 1. There are 7 electrons, but in order to be stable chlorine needs 1 more electron. So it simply gain electron from someone else atom and become stable. So what happens exactly? The sodium ion from its valence shell electron are making it unstable just releases this electron to the chlorine, and now the chlorine becomes stable because it has now, when this electron is transferred to chlorine, it becomes stable. Now see, chlorine has completed its octet shell and has a complete electron in the valence shell, while the sodium now has a valence shell, this one. The second shell of sodium is now act as the valence shell and it completely lost its outer shell. So in this way, sodium becomes also stable and chlorine also gains stability, and the resultant product will be sodium chloride. And this is exactly the same compound that we use in our daily life, because our daily life salt is also known as sodium chloride. And this is a dramatical explanation, and this is how the reaction took place. Simply, the dots here, they represent the valence shell electron in an atom. Sodium atom has one valence shell electron in it, which makes it unstable, and chlorine has 7 electron in its valence shell, which make it unstable too. So they simply react together, and chlorine gains its electron. That's why it took, or it gains, a negative charge. Sodium, while releasing one of its valence shell electrons, become positively charged. So how they gain their charges? That's exactly how the ions are formed, by gaining or losing electron. Whenever an atom loses its electron, it becomes negatively charged. Whenever an atom is gaining electron, it becomes positively charged. So this is how the sodium chloride is formed. Now there are some other examples. There are a lot of examples of ionic bonds, but I am representing here some of them. These all are the ionic compounds: Kf, Ki, Kbr, sodium iodide. These all are the types of ionic compounds. K representing the potassium. These, some of the properties of the ionic bonds are mentioned here, like they have the high melting and boiling points. They are soluble in water. For example, just keep an example in your mind, like when we dissolve salt in the water, it easily dissolves. So this is that's the reason. Soluble in water, crystalline solid. They are crystal in shape. They are solid as a good insulator. When they are solid, they are good insulators. When they are liquid state, they are a very good conductor, because we know that the solid water are very good conductors. So these are some of the very important properties of the ionic bonds, that bond or compounds, that you have to keep in your mind. So this is all about today's lecture. I hope you like it, and I hope you understand the concept of what is ionic bond, how the ions are formed, and what are the example of ionic compounds. So this is all about today's